there was only one course of action for Hume City Council. Our demography and our values and our act said we had to have something like this. So, having done some brief introduction while we fiddled with the technology, I'm going to talk briefly about the 2007 review, and I've just scattered some copies on the floor which people can have a look at while I talk. And certainly what I'm talking about there, I think, is the message that we needed to do better than what we were doing. And then I am going to talk about accountability, because remember, I'm an officer, and it's my job to support the politicians. And in local government, what happens to you in local government is you're very close to your politicians, and probably much closer than the bulk of staff in, say, an organisation like DHS ever get. And, Gary rings me. He's no longer a councillor, and he's just chipped me for not returning his call. So what is true is I was pretty proud of the work we'd done. We'd done a Tackling Poverty Together report, which was really groundbreaking. The methodology was fantastic. We'd surprised the councillors. We'd actually came up, the community had said respect is the key component. And there we were having Joan Kerner, fabulous woman, launch our report. She walks up to me afterwards and she said, "It's a pretty story, Denise, but, are you really testing it? It tells the story, but it doesn't do much else." So I walked away probably a bit deflated. And I suppose in this forum, what I want to encourage you is I actually think that the challenge to do better is really fundamental to taking the next steps. So then what we did as officers is we got Mike Silvaris, who had a bit of a reputation in this area, to do a desktop review of our work. And let me tell you, it was again one of the most deflating, and close your ears, Gary, deflating experiences that I've had, because, work that we're proud of, what do you say? Lacks systems, lacks measurement, lacks quality reporting. And we've been, as an organisation, doing what we thought were quality reports every year. The other context to 2007 was the introduction and the obligation of the Victorian Charter, and we clearly had a Bill of Rights. The Victorian Charter had a set of rights, and we somehow had to come to terms with those rights. And finally, I don't think you can do anything in this area without working and talking to the community. And for me, Tackling Poverty Together was very fundamental in the assumption that a poorly educated, low socioeconomic community couldn't actually say something significant and meaningful. That lesson came home to me. Learn it well. They actually have a lot more knowledge, a lot more basic values, and they can say it and they'll tell you as it is. And when we were doing the consultation that we did as part of this review process, the community was saying, you've got to make this relevant to us. You've actually got to make it, and my staff member says, relatable. So that's what they said. And so for me, in this context, you might be somewhere in your journey about human rights, but at every point, I reckon you're always starting. And if you take nothing out from this discussion, I'd like you to take that. So when Di rang me, I thought, I'm coming after Gary. What will Gary talk about? He'll probably talk about this, so I'll focus on accountability. And what's clear, and it's actually, from my perspective, the greatest challenge I have, we have won the ideas market around human rights in Hume City. There is an intrinsic understanding. The CEO, he'll put his hand up in the air and he'll say, yep, I'm an accountant. But he'll talk about things and he'll say, it's just not fair, or it's just not right that we have this sort of condition in our community. So He mightn't get the fancy words, but he certainly gets the concepts. But it's actually my greatest challenge as an officer responsible in this area. So what we've done is to try to build a system. And the first thing we had to do, and it's fundamental project management, is actually build a line of sight between the lowest level to the highest level in the organisation and to the policy commitment. We had to do the "you are responsible", and we have put names and positions. Now, there's a fundamental message about names and positions. It's in organisations, it's positions that have life, not people. I could be run over by a bus tomorrow, but the manager of social development is responsible for A, B, C and D. So we have designated names because it makes it personal and speaks to people, but also positions because the responsibility vests in the position. Cross-organisational reporting. Now, Gary didn't hold up the Learning Together 2 strategy. Do you want to hold it up? One of the smart things that Hume City Council did is said, and it's a bit common sense, but education, improving learning is a pathway out of disadvantage. And we have a whole other strategy around that. But that creates some challenges for me, because how do we actually integrate it? So we do that through cross-organisational reporting systems. It is me,